Kuldeep sir,
Yes, sir.
shall I start?
Please, sir.
Yeah. Good evening to all. As it is rightly said by George Couros, technology will not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. With this, I welcome you all on this fifth day of faculty development program. In continuation to what we did yesterday, we will resume our discussion on logistic regression. Logistic regression is a concept that explains how data is stored in memory and used to predict outcomes. Again, I welcome our speaker from Kuldeep sir, please.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you
Hello.
very much, Professor Tripathi, and very good evening to all the
Hello.
participants.
Hello.
Yeah, madam, we can hear you.
Hello.
Uh, as Professor Tripathi mentioned, today we are going to have a practical session, and we are going to cover a very, very important machine learning algorithm known by the name logistic regression. So we'll have hands-on practice. We'll not spend too much time on the theoretical part of it. So logistic regression is kind of variant of linear regression only, but since it works on the principle of maximum likelihood estimation, then the linear regression, which works on ordinary least square method and other stuff. So I'll be explaining more about logistic regression as we go along. So for implementing logistic regression, we are going to use a data set. So let me start with sharing of my screen. Okay, so this is the data which we are going to use for implementing logistic regression model. So it basically data related to the health of individual and what is the likelihood that they will have a chronic heart related problems in next 10 years. So this is the data. I'll be so first thing we should know is we should know the data thoroughly, and then only we can think of achieving some objective which we set for ourselves. So I will keep referring this data on and off. This is just to have a feeling. Since this data is very, very clean data, it does not have unnecessary or garbage data, which is not the case normally. So this is hand-picked data with all the cleaning done. So that we can directly jump onto implementing a logistic regression model, then spending time in cleaning this data and bringing it to a form where logistic regression model can be applied. And as we have covered in our past lectures, the data cleaning and feature engineering, if we say it total combined, it can take maximum 80% of our time and energy. So when we implement this, you can imagine that we have left most part of the effort in implementing the regression model, but you need to be familiar with how to go about implementing one algorithm at least. So that is why we are starting like this. So let me start with launching of my Anaconda environment. So till the time Anaconda environment starts, there are various platforms which you can avail, the services of which you can avail for implementing your machine learning algorithms. Since the data set and the kind of algorithm which we are implementing over here are small in size, our data is also small, and we are not doing much feature engineering and all that stuff. So everything can reside on your computer, and that's why we are preferring to use these kind of platform like Anaconda Navigator and the IDE like Jupyter. But there are various other services offered by Google, Amazon, IBM. Uh, so they are extended as a service. All the computing resources and the storages are lies in the cloud. You don't have to own them, but there are merits and demerits of both the things. If you are handling only small data, then obviously it is better to use your own computer and have everything over here. And but if you are playing with large volumes of data, or if you are working with images and videos and those kind of data structures which requires high computing power and storages, then you can think of moving on to those kind of platforms. But yes, they work on API format. So once you store your data and everything over there, then whatever commands you write, so there is an interface created, and it is in a package form. They go implement, and the result is again thrown back to you. So that is how it works. In fact, it works like the deployment of a machine learning algorithm works like that only. So once you deploy it, the person who made it and who deployed it, generally there are two teams. The data scientists are different, and data engineers or the traditional coders, developers are a different set of teams. So these two teams combinedly, they put everything in place. So data scientists or so they make these algorithms in say Python, and they hand it over to the other team which implements and deploys it. And the users will be obviously the different people, business people. So there are three kind of entities which are, so business people, they don't have to be aware of all these things. So the interface is created in such a way, uh, or the users can be anyone like us also, who don't have much knowledge about data science. Say technically we are not involved in development and all this stuff. Say I'm a marketer and I don't know how about data science, so I need not to know. So the interface is provided. So I submit my say I can submit my data or all those things, and then I get the result. So that is how it works. uh, since we will not be left with much time, so I'm just taking these intervals in between to cover these parts.
Sir, your screen is not visible. Please share your screen.
Sir, I've shared my screen. It should be visible to you. uh, it is not visible to you only, or it is not visible to others also?
Sir, it is visible.
Fine. So sir, you will have to do something about it. Like you will have to ping that particular thing so that it is there in front of you. All right. So uh, you need to spend a lot of time on the data to understand the data. Till the time you don't understand data, obviously, and there's no point of mechanically implementing few steps. Uh, data understanding data. The problem comes when you deal with large volume of data, particularly with the deep learning. But in case of other kind of data, you should thoroughly know. And why we have chosen to cover this logistic regression model is, if very very simple algorithm, but it is used widely across industries because it is easy to understand and easy to explain to the business. So in last lectures, like we have discussed, we have to be aware of the interpretability and the accuracy both issues. There is a trade-off. So basically, here the World Health Organization estimates that there are 12 billion deaths occur worldwide every year due to heart diseases. So there is a sample data which is there with us. The sample data gives details of the people, their age, whether they smoke or not, whether they have any kind of diabetic problem or not, and then we have a labeled data. Labeled data means whether those kind of people are prone to heart diseases or not. So like in our data set, we saw that that those kind of people, those so here we saw in this database, like so I'm just taking the first row. So male and female genders are given. Male 1 represent male and 0 represent female. So here is the age and education. Education it doesn't matter much here. We will be removing this column when we'll do the before implementing algorithm. So here, whether the person smokes or not, how many cigarettes if he smokes, then does it have any BP or medical related programs, and these kinds of things. This is medical data, whether he's diabetic or not, total cholesterol level and all those things, BMI, and then if so this person is not prone to heart disease. So they see one. So this is labeled data. So logistic regression is a supervised learning model. Means from these cases, we are telling the algorithm that with
Hello.
this kind of profile, the person is
Hello.
hello.
Sir, screen is presentation is not visible, sir.
Mm,
Yeah, screen is visible, sir. Please pin Kuldeep, sir.
okay. So so these are the cases. That is how the algorithm learns from these cases. Like what kind of profile a person will have uh, uh, to declare him or to predict whether he is prone to heart diseases or not. So, so this is how from this data the algorithm will learn, and then we will give him the case based on which the algorithm will predict whether he has how many chances are there that he will be prone to heart diseases or not. You will have to probably go through the theory of logistic regression, but basically it predicts the categorical variable dichotomous in nature, or binary in nature, either yes or no. So when you have to take decision between two things, and the various factors are contributing in taking the decision yes or no. Those are the use cases wherein logistic regression model can be applied. So it could be anything, whether the kind of email which you are receiving, so in your inbox, whether they are spam or not spam. So those kind of binary decisions, say you are using, you're doing say fault analysis. So when these factors were there, whether the machinery will break down or will not break down. So it could be anything from the images, whether somebody X-ray images, whether somebody has some particular type of disease or not disease. In retail industry, it is very widely used. In marketing, it is very widely used. Uh, deep learning has started picking up now, but earlier logistic regression was the one which was widely used across industries uh, because of its power. It's simple in nature and it gives better result compared to other uh, algorithms. But now nowadays this algorithm is being replaced by advanced classification algorithms like support vector machines and other even deep learning and all those things. But still it is very widely used wherein the decision is taken based on the factors and you very well understand the data. Okay, so I have uploaded the CSV file over here. So what I'll do is first of all let me just remove all the output so that it is clear. So I have yesterday we covered so this is okay. So it is going to give me an error because I have not imported pandas here. So yesterday we discussed about this important library called pandas, and you can read this CSV file into pandas, and I've given this name as heart df data frame. So as we saw in the data, the education aspect is not important in this case. So this data, but particularly I have chosen to make you think on like what different things are there. I'm not here to give you solution to everything, but see how the data plays an important role. So education does not have any major impact on the this thing. Who am I to say that? Probably the medical people will be able to comment on this more than I as a data scientist if I have to do this project. So when I have been given some data, whether I'm removing or ignoring all those things, those decisions have to be communicated back to the business, the person who is giving me project, like, and he sets the business problem that this is what you have to achieve. So he will tell me whether I can remove this or not. I will obviously come up with this that it may, uh, but if some particular feature or data is there, and if it is very clear that it will not have any impact on our output, then it is better to get rid of that data because it will affect the performance and the accuracy of our algorithm and the learning rate. So more and distant type kind of data will be there, the learning will be slow, and will not get to the better results. So from this data frame, the education column has been dropped, and if we see the first 5 rows, then you don't see any education over here. Okay, so a little description of the data which we have. So Uh, the data is nominal, that is 0 and 1 in case of a male or female. Then we have smokers, whether a person smokes or not. Then whether how many cigarettes he smokes. Then some kind of medical history of that person, whether or not the patient was on blood pressure medication or not. And these kind of things, whether the patient was hyper tensive or not, whether he was diabetic or not. So this was the history. Then what is the current state? What is the total cholesterol level? This. So, like when you go to the doctor, more or less doctor will ask or check these kind of things. So, if this algorithm becomes you know, super efficient, if I'm able to train it well on different kind of data, then at least the doctor will get replaced here. So not literally, but he doesn't have to do this task, but the algorithm will be able to give him a better result. So the doctor can use this data before he meets the patient. I mean, his assistant can find out all these things, put in the information, and before the patient goes to the doctor will have a decision making ability before he speaks to the patient. Okay, so now so here our target variable may be, you know, 10-year risk of coronary heart disease or not, but this could be anything. Target variable could be whether, say, if I replace all this data, say with the symptoms of COVID-19, then the algorithm will be able to predict, you know, whether the person has COVID or not, or the app which we are using. So there also, how the app is working. So the app is working based on we give the information in the app, Arogya Setu app, which we are using. So we are the one who are giving information, and it is saying what is the likely that, you know, how much vulnerable or prone or you know, those kind of indicators it gives. So those are also working on similar kind of things. Okay. Now here, see in this, so this is very small example which taken to explain little cases, but you will come across such cases in larger number. So see male, so it is just a male. It doesn't give by looking at data whether it is talking about gender or not. So basically we are talking about the sex of the person, whether male or female. So this is a simple example. So you can rename these columns like this. Okay. So we have renamed these columns like this. So now why I've used this, I've included this use cases in these column names. When you will receive the actual data, the real data, what will happen? There will be sentences. Say how many cigarettes person, say person smokes so many cigarettes, or those kind of, so sentences may be there, some kind of unnecessary things which will be there, long variable names you cannot use. So either you will have to rename them, or you know, or discard anything. So those kind of use cases I have tried to include here, so that when we use the column names, they are easy to use in the code. Okay, so most of these algorithms, if they have missing values or garbage values, then they don't give you the result. They will work, they will not work on that. Either you make them 0, or whatever data should be there, but it should not be blank or something which you know, affects their learning. So here what we are doing is we are finding out how many null values are there in each of the column. So before I run this, I have to run this, so that still I am getting the column name male. If I run this, and then if I run this, my column name would be changed. So I'll have to run all this, otherwise I'll be facing problem when we reach in the end. Okay, so my column name is changed. So first column does not have any kind of null value or blank. Second column also likewise. Cigarettes per day has 29 blanks. same ways the other columns also have these number of blanks. So I cannot proceed with a data set which is having blanks. So we'll have to do something about it. So what we can do, either we go back to the business and say that these are the blank fields, either data is not recorded properly or give you this some other files, but that is always a waste effort, because business also pulls out data and gives you. He cannot say this value should have been there at that place. So then it is finally left to you only to decide and give recommendation and discuss with the business, like how are you going to fill these blank values. Okay, so there are various ways of dealing with these blank values. All right, so say this is one way, in the sense that if I don't have anything, I can't think of this, then I pick up the value which could be mean, which could be a mode, which could give me the maximum occurring value. Say I use mode, I can use mean, but I can't or I can use out of these mean, mode, median. So but I can't use mean in case the data is string or characters. So I may use mode or say median. So those kind of things we'll have to see when we work for those, what kind of datas are there in that thing, and what is the column about which we are trying uh, to fill. Okay, so I will not run this, otherwise will not be able to cover believe, till end. So these are various ways. I mean, you will be, when you will encounter, you will have to think over it, to discuss, deliberate, and then proceed. Okay. So now, so here we want to find out, like how many total number of rows are there which has got missing values. So it is showing me 489, and this 489 rows. So total rows or columns we did not check anywhere. No, we did not check anywhere. So let's check it over here now. So we have these many rows and these many columns. So out of these, 489 rows have got what number of missing values. So what can we do about this? Can we delete them, or we'll have to use some other method? What we did, we may have to impute values for those missing cells and then do it. But since here it will not have any practical implication, so we can straight away remove these. So this is one way of imputing through mean, mode, and all those things which we discussed. So what we are doing over here is we are dropping all those values which are having missing values, all those rows which are having missing values. Okay, so let's see now our target variable has, the name of the target variable is this. So how many values are there in that? It has got number of cases in which there is a likelihood of cancer in next 10 years is 572, and not likely to have is 3179. So what does it indicate to us? That means, so in classification algorithms, you will have to be careful about what kind of cases are you giving to the algorithm to learn. So these kind of problems are called imbalance problems. In the sense, we are giving more of such cases wherein there is not likelihood of uh, developing the heart disease, and less of the cases wherein there is a chances of developing the heart related diseases. Ideally, when we will be training it, we should be giving him the 50-50 cases, so that it picks up the all the patterns. Or the other way of making its learning strong is give more and more data to the algorithm to learn. Now, suppose, I mean, we go back and we ask for more data, and the business says, no, we don't have much data now. This is what we have. So then what do? If we go ahead with this kind of data set, then it will affect our accuracy or the performance of the algorithm. So just imagine algorithm as a child. You tell him more of those cases wherein there is a less chances of something happening, and more less of the cases when there is a uh, uh, something there's chances of something happening. So the child will learn that accordingly. But even when he will face the real world, if he will not be that confident, he will not come up with the suggestion or the decisions which he should have ideally when he was trained. So similarly, so either there are two ways. One is there's something called undersampling also, wherein you remove some of the data, but people do it to improve the accuracy, but that is not the best way of doing it. So you can read about it, like when we have these kind of cases, what do we do? Okay, I'm just stimulating your mind to think in these directions, because these are the things which will decide how well do you implement algorithm. Mechanically implementing algorithm is just a 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. Then what's the big deal about it? So decision making is not that simple and easy. Uh, so you have to keep all these parameters in ideal state to actually get some result out of it. If you're just doing it for fun, that's a different reason. But in business, all these things matter. So there is a lot of emphasis given on these things, that how you have followed the various steps, and when you are coming out with some recommendations, you should be very clear, and the others also will ask from you. So here Sn is not defined. Now what is this Sn? Have we imported this? Okay, I'll have to import library. Not this. Either you can go to documentation part of it, or you can just pick up this command. Okay, so this is the library which I wanted to import, but somehow I've missed this. Okay, so this is the count of a graphical representation of our target variable. So now it will give me pair plot with the different variables. So when you get this indication, means it's working on it. It is taking time. So you can just imagine that, with this small set, uh, when there are so many graphical and other things, how much time it takes. So what people do is, when they have to deal with large chunk of data or images, they rent out GPUs. So all these big enterprises have got GPUs which have got very high computing and storage power. So for training their models specifically on deep learning aspects, they rent out those GPUs just to train their data. It is still working on it. I'll have to otherwise kill the kernel and restart. So anybody wants to ask anything till the time it is taking time to process?
Sir, regarding you have said some that can keeping and dropping variables.
Yeah.
Can we do some tests because to check for some parameters whether we can keep those variables or drop? Because usually in Excel or we do some, so for example, p value or something like that. In here also, how convenient is it to analyze whether we can keep the variables or drop it? Is there any method which we can easily apply?
Yes, sir. So there are two ways of approaching it. One is you can do you can take that itself as a project, whether that parameter has an impact on the target variable or not. That is a very scientific way of doing it. There are various methods available. So that is a kind of a research part which you are doing. So that is also, that project also you can implement in machine learning algorithm also. Second way of doing is you ask the business, and the business generally they have knowledge about it. If they don't have knowledge, then you can you have to then apply your own judgment and common sense. And when you apply your own judgment and common sense, you record it. So when you send the report, when you send your output along with your recommendation, that is story, it is known by the name story. When you tell the story, that time you make a mention.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So here I think you have dropped one
Variable.
variable, yeah, education or something. So that was told, intimated to you, hence you have dropped it, I suppose.
So when the data is given to me, I will thoroughly, first of all, I should be working in that domain. So in the data scientist also they have it domain specified. Say if you are into market analytics, then you will be working in the marketing analytics only. You should know what these marketing terminologies, what kind of data you get. That comes with the experience. If you're working in HR domain, then you do HR analytics, then you find out about that. If you are doing supply chain management analytics, then so you also, the data scientists also, it's not that obviously they can be rotated among the domain, but generally a senior person, so the coding part is generally done by the freshers, and the senior person, a senior data scientist, or you can say lead data scientist, is expected to have, you know, knowledge of the business, and he should be able to, he doesn't have to go down to the level of implementing like doing the coding part. Only during reviews only he will get to know, but other time he has to when the project is given, he has to discuss and chart out like how it is to be done. So the lead data scientist should be able to advise the coders if on these issues, and still if he himself is not aware, then the business is involved. Does that answer your question to some extent, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It definitely answers. And one more thing, just I want to ask. You have said that for non-numeric data, you can use mode. I think you have told like that. For example, median or something, if you use, then it may create problem.
Right.
So
So
for
that
non,
also depends, like, it depends, like, say, what kind of data are you filling? Say if some values come very frequently and those are missing, then you can go for mode. Or so these mean, mode, median are just the simplest way of immuting the data from the other data field. There can be other ways also. You can uh, em- calculate a value which is based on 2-3 columns also in that data. Or when you do the feature engineering, you can even discard that column and you can come out with a different kind of column itself.
okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so that depends upon the feature engineering part when you do it. So we have not done much over here. We just kind of to trigger your mind that this is all these aspects you should keep in mind. So we have got some result, some this thing wherein it is giving us a pair plot. I can't make out any much. I mean, out of it. So we'll move ahead. So this is our data if we describe it like this. So this is the count, mean, standard deviation, first 25, 75 percentile and all those things. So this part is like adding a constant in this equation. I'll not be covering. There is a theory behind it. When do we add and when we don't add? I'll skip this, and in fact I'll skip this part also. So here I'm getting some problems. I may have to start one more instance of this. So histograms are also equally important. In this algorithm, it doesn't expect any kind of normality in the data. So when you implement other algorithms, you will have to be very careful with the assumptions of that particular algorithms. Like whether some algorithm expect that your data should be normal, then accordingly you will have to do those operations on your data, normalization or standardization of your data. So all the columns are then checked, and then you do some kind of operations on those. So you have to be thorough with the assumptions of that particular algorithm, like what kind of data it expects from you. So this is what we have got. This is pair plot. I should be running this. This we have seen. This is where we are adding a constant and then some p-value approach wherein we are calculating new features. New feature, I mean, this some kind of feature engineering which we are doing here. It will become too complex to understand here. So I'm just skipping these steps, but these are necessary to bring the data to a state where we can implement logistic regression model. Okay. So now we are doing the train test split here. Oh, here also we are getting some kind of problem. So this is outdated now. So what we are doing is now we are implementing, we are dividing our data. 80% we are keeping as test data, and 20% we are, sorry, 80% we are using training data, and 20% we'll be using the test data. So the data is divided now into 80-20 ratio, 80% training data and 20% test data. This is a common feature, but if you want to use more optimized form of
कैसे आ रही
training
है
the data. Hello.
बात है इसमें लग कट करना था ना
Sir, can you mute
टाइम
yourself?
लग कट कर दे मम्मी एक सर्टिफिकेट मिला मालूम मम्मी को मम्मी को सर्टिफिकेट मिला एक
कौन सा
हाँ नहीं मिला तुमको सर्टिफिकेट मिल गया है तुमको
Mr.
Which guy?
Verma, please mute.
Sir, congratulations on getting the certificate. Can you mute yourself now, please? Okay. So what we are doing over here is we are splitting the data into training and test data, but there are now more optimal way of training your algorithm, so that this 20% test data which you are keeping aside, you involve that also to train your model, because the data is everything over here. So you cannot keep 20% of your population away while you are training your algorithm. So I have kind of implemented this, but I don't know, we are getting a lot of errors here. So there is this k-fold uh, way of doing it. So you can implement in your own time. I'll just show you how do we do it. Yeah, so this is the this is the replacement of this 80-20 thing which we have done. So here there's this method called k-fold, and in this you say you can split the entire data into 5 parts, and then you train the algorithm on the 4 parts, and then you check the accuracy with the 5th part. Then second time you again it is splitted into 5 parts, and then you train on the 4 part, and you check with that, and that is how you kind of validate your algorithm to improve its learning.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So that means every time the complete data set would be combined, and then we will be dividing it into four, like 4 to 1, or how it has to be done. Please explain more.
So here, madam, we are kind of dividing the data set into 5 parts, and then one part is kept aside. On the 4 part you train the algorithm, and then once you have trained the algorithm, then the one part which you kept, you compare the prediction with that part to understand the this thing algorithms to improve its prediction power. And then second time that part is combined and one part is taken out. So it is not in second step, it will divide the data only once in 5 parts. Second time it will not divide into 5 parts. It will use those 5 parts only interchangeably to train and then compare the result.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So this is how, this is the way you can use the train test split. So now here data is divided. So now comes the instance of this logistic regression model. So what library are we using? sklearn is the library wherein we are using the linear models. So logistic regression is, though logistic function is not is non-linear, I mean the destination target variable and the predictive variable, there is a known linear relationship, but through logarithmic function we make it linear. So logistic regression also falls in the category of linear models only. So here we are creating an instance of this logistic regression, and then on the training data we are fitting this model. That means we are training this model now on the training data which we have set aside, that is 80%, which we have set aside over here. And once it is trained, so this part, let me tell you, I mean, it looks like one simple line over here, but when you have tons and tons of data, then people rent out GPUs for this particular part, and you use those computing resources, you pay money for that, and once your data is trained, you there are various ways to save the state, like pickling is one state. So your then your model is trained, and then you can use it to predict values. And then what we are doing is we are predicting based on this X test. So the test data which we kept aside, we know like what should be the result. So we are predicting this, and then we will be comparing what the model is predicting and what is the actual data. And then there are various performance matrices of this related to the algorithm. So all these are interfaces, there are APIs, and these APIs are in these libraries. So we are testing the accuracy of this model. Now, why are we getting this error? Why predict? Okay, we didn't run either this. Okay. And so this is the accuracy which we have got for this algorithm.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, I want to know that how we can use our trained model to check the result, to check the performance of that particular model by using testing data.
See, sir, what we have done is just visualize with me. So we have a data, we have divided it into two parts. Since this is a labeled data, so in some, say we have got 10 records. 8 records we have used for training the model, and last 2 records. So in last 2 records also, like 8 records, we have some input variable, and the output variable also is also known to us. So first 8 records we have trained, we know the input variables and the target variables. Based on that, the model has learned something. So there are learning parameters of the model. So there are two kind of parameters which are involved. One is the learning parameters of the model, and there are hyperparameters. So when you optimize the performance of the model, so then we are going in a different direction. So when you will optimize the performance of the algorithm, you will take help of these two parameters. Okay. Now, first 8 record has got input parameters and output variables. So it has picked up the pattern from the first 8 records. Then the last 2 records, we have kept them as a test set. So there also we have input variables and then output variables, or target variable. So once from the 8 records the algorithm is trained, then what we are doing here is we are giving those input parameters of those last 2 records to predict for those last 2 records. Once it predicts, it will come out with some target variable. Then we compare that target variable with the actual variable which we had. So now we have, for test set input variables, we have 2 values here. One which is predicted by the model, the other which already existed in our data. So when you compare these two, then you can do various performance analysis on these 2 parameters.
No, sir, I want to know that is there any method to save that particular model and then apply on any data set?
Say again, sir. Say again.
Sir, is there any method to save that particular model and apply on any data?
Yeah. So that is what I mean. There is a method that is why we are able to use this. So there are various methods available. Pickle is one method. If you Google Pickle, how do you use Pickle? You will understand that it saves the trained model in that state only. You pickle that model and you park it somewhere else. Let it be there. It is already trained. You have already devoted computer resources and time and energy on that model based on that data. So it will remain in that state only. When you want to use it next, you can unpickle it. You can bring it back and then you can start giving him the test data or whatever input for the prediction. It will predict. Does that answer your question, sir?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. So the other one is confusion matrix. So this is also a performance parameters. I mean matrix which is used for checking the performance of the algorithm. So if you see on the left hand side, then you have actual values, and in the bottom row you have the values which are predicted by the model. Now which quadrant do you want that we should have maximum values?
कोरोना वायरस या कोविड-19 से आज पूरा देश लड़ रहा है, पर यार
सर एक मिनट शांत तो कर लो, शांत ही नहीं होते, एकदम से हद हो गई बिल्कुल ही, मतलब इन्हें शांत एक बार आप.
Okay. So here what we do is we have true positive, true negative, false positive and false negative are these 4 terms which we use. So what are true positive? So true positive are those values which are actually positive, means the values which are in this case the people actually are prone to or are having likelihood of developing heart disease, and we have also predicted, or the model has also predicted. So that is true positive. So we want the true positive to be more. So things have changed in this model. It's not that always it will predict the same thing. So last time it gave this 4, so 4 was written here. We have now 5 are the values which model has predicted, that in this case based on those test data, we have 5 values which were positive, and the model has also predicted positive. So that is true positive here. Then we have true negative. True negative means those cases which do not have any likelihood of developing the heart disease, and the model has also predicted the same. So what we expect is these two quadrant should have maximum values. Means those which are actually positive should be positive, and those we should get the same result, and those which are negative, and we should also get the same thing. But here also, in your hypothesis, you have sometime you want so there are two words used which are used over here, something called precision and recall. So precision and recall are the two terms. Here it was there, I mentioned it here. If it is not there, then I'll explain. Okay. So what does precision and recall does is, so first what is precision is true positive divided by true positive plus false positive. So this is the this right hand side is the line for precision. That means 5 divided by 5 plus 7 is my precision, and I have got recall. So recall is true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. So that means this line 5 divided by 5 plus 87. So these are the two terms which are used, precision and recall. Depends upon what is your requirement for this particular model. Say true positive precision is wherein, say, you want to avoid your child you want to avoid that your child should be able to watch something on the internet which is not meant for it. That means or you don't want him to see. That means in that process there will be material which you don't want, I mean you want that also get discarded. Okay, let me put it across a different way. So suppose there is a fire. The fire alarm should have precision or more recall or more precision. So fire alarm, we expect that even if there is a at times false fire alarms, it is acceptable rather than precision. So we expect more of recall kind of thing. Means there is something, even if there is a false alarm, it is still acceptable to us rather than being precise. But there are opposite cases wherein we we want to be fully precise. Okay, let me give the example of recall. So in recall, suppose you have categorized the emails to be should go in inbox or should go in spam. Now you don't want that all your emails should start going to spam. So here you expect more of recall than precision. Otherwise, you'll start missing important emails which come to your inbox. So here there is a trade-off between precision and recall. So these are some of the parameters file to analyze how your how your model is doing on that data. Then there are two terms called sensitivity and specificity. So again there is a trade-off between these two. So they are also basically used in reverse operating characteristics performance matrix which is there. You can change this with this lower threshold to increase the performance, but then it becomes slightly complex. for you to understand, probably these are the some of the metrics. Then ROC is reverse operating characteristics. I have either not shown this. Okay, it will generate a kind of curve which is between true positive rate and this ROC curve is basically between true positive and false positive rate. If you read about it, they are not very difficult. You will understand the theory behind this. The area under this AUC curve is always 1. And if we get this, we're better. All right. Anybody has got any question on this? I mean, obviously, there are so many things which we have jumped and so many more things which can be done. But overall, you should be able to understand the flow of this.
Good evening, sir.
Very good evening.
So my question is, this technique of logistic regression can also be implemented on the data set of biometric triads. Like there are different types of triads which we use. So can we use this technique in that data sets as well, or we cannot?
Madam, I have not. My knowledge is limited on biometric triads. So what kind of data you get over there?
Sir, the data is like, suppose if we take it in a form of an image, so we get the features values out of it. Like suppose if we are taking an example of a fingerprint, so we are getting the ridges and the valleys values in that. So those values, if we take those values, so can this technique be implemented on that data?
It can be implemented, but it will become slightly complex for you to implement this. It is better you apply deep learning on those kind of things.
Okay, because as we have discussed in the earlier sessions that this kind of techniques can be implemented on any kind of...
I'm not saying it cannot be implemented. It can be very much implemented.
Okay.
But
I mean,
you will have
a better technique if we want to have better...
So your aim is to basically classify your data based on classification only, or there's something else?
Sir, not only classification, even if I want to train that data, so that in future, if we want to authenticate the people who are coming, like we can apply that technique somewhere else also. So basically,
then it's better to use deep learning, madam.
Deep learning.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, sir. I think we should close now if there are no more questions.
So we'll be sharing the files yesterday and today's file also.
Yeah, it goes without saying. I know I keep promising that I'll be sharing, but see, I have made these files in quite a hurry just to, share some of my knowledge little bit which I have with you people. So they are not professionally come to that stage, but give me some time. I'll definitely be sharing all this.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other queries? Okay. Kuldeep sir, I mean, it is hard to close such an interesting and interactive session, sir. But we have come to the end of today's session. I hope this session was able to ignite the fuel to understand and go deeper in this amazing topic. So let us meet tomorrow. Till then, stay safe and good night. Good night, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you everyone for bearing me for such a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.